Sea of Thieves can be very dark at times. Sure, the game is beautiful, but just look at this picture. And now tell me you can see it better this way. There you go. Okay, I know the game isn't pretty, but believe me, in many situations it's better to see more than if the game is realistic and therefore very dark. But that was just one example. Hey there bots, I'm Joyso, and in this video I'll show you how you can get some advantage in the game just by changing the settings. First, let's get to the obvious one, the FOV. I think it's so basic that I don't really want to over-explain it. The first thing you need to do in the game is to raise the FOV from default 75 to the maximum, which is 90. Obviously, most of you have already done this, and I know it's really very basic, so I won't belabor the time. Let's move on to the next setting, lightning. So as you've just seen, if you take off the lightning detail and also the shadow detail to cursed, the game gets much brighter. One of the explanations for this is that shadow detail on minimum settings will virtually eliminate all shadows almost completely. Instead you'll see darker patches, but not real shadows. In addition, all shadows in the corners will be eliminated totally, which is one of the most important bonuses for us in the case. Why is that? Because with this setting, even though the game will be geeky, it will be much easier to navigate in dark ships and caves, and more importantly, it will be almost impossible for other crews to dock on your ship, as you will be able to spot them incredibly easy. Also, setting the lightning detail to minimum will cause light sources to penetrate through walls, again making the game much brighter. So if you have a problem with darkness of your game, you should definitely consider adjusting these settings. Next up we have our water detail setting. This essentially adjusts the texture and animation quality of the water. And now we come to the point in my video that I've been debating. Water is one of the main elements of the game, don't you fucking say. And because of that, many people clearly want to see the best looking water in the game. Unfortunately, to get some advantages in the game, it's worth taking off the water graphic settings. This way, even though the water surface will be really ugly, you can see much further underwater, which is obviously useful in many situations. For example, in an underwater sniper duel, it's very helpful. I don't really know how much it's worth messing with these settings. I think there are quite a lot of pros and cons here. What do you guys think? Is it worth taking down the water graphic quality just to see better underwater, or would you rather look at a more eye-pleasing water graphic which in turn has less visibility underwater? Let's discuss in the comments. Oh, and speaking about comments, I'd really appreciate it if you'd drop a like and subscribe to the channel, because it helps me a lot in my development. If you do so, thank you very much. I'll give you a chocolate or something, I don't know. However, I think it is important to mention that for water it is sufficient to switch the setting down to common. Cursed is really an overkill here, and I don't think it helps as much as setting it to common. The next setting differs from the others in that it should not be set as low as possible, but rather high as possible. What are we talking about here is the animation quality. This setting basically controls the maximum possible animation that the game will run at a time. The better the setting, the more animation will run, obviously. This setting can be a lot of help in PvP situations, where it is important to get visual information about as many things as possible, such as the enemy player's positioning processes. And now let's move on to the settings that don't need to have their level decreased or increased. So here are the settings you can turn on and off. The first two are two settings that I'd like to put together as they came into the game at the same time not so long ago. Directly below the graphic settings I've presented so far, you will find the visibility settings. Within these you'll need to set the first two options to on, if you want to get an advantage. The first is the turn off blur. You know, the one that makes the ghost look less nauseating. And the second is the turn of screen shake, which is really helpful when cannoning, and for some reason what not many people talk about is sword spam is about half as annoying when it's on, because it doesn't shake the screen with every hit you take. And last but not least, let's look at communication. In the language tab of the settings menu, if you turn on the speech to text override and the translate other players options, with some mistranslations and misunderstood words, you can essentially eavesdrop on other hotmic players, even people who don't speak English. I guess I don't need to explain how this makes the game easier for you. And that's essentially what today's video is about. I hope I was able to help and explain enough, and also explain why the game's graphics stumble shit in every 20-second long random clip that you see on YouTube. Anyway, thanks for your attention. I hope you liked it. If you did, give me a like, subscribe, and everything that I said before. Thank you. Bye.